Online casting sites hate us. Now, admittedly, this was a title of a podcast that was meant to startle people into paying attention because I wanted them to listen to the message. Now, if you're one of those people who reads the headlines and doesn't read the article, then you probably thought, yes, online casting sites do hate us. Thank you for saying it out loud, Mark. And then you shook your head and nodded in agreement. But if you actually listened to the episode, you would have heard something very different. And I have been surprised at the responses. I thought actually that I was going to get a lot more pushback than I did. But ultimately, there's a lot of people that realized that there was something there. But there were also some people who reached out and said, Mark, I think you missed something, or I want to add something, or there's a counterpoint to this. Tom Deere already did in a quote unquote emergency podcast. He reached out to me, said he's got a counterpoint for it. J. Michael had a brilliant blog that came out that talked about online casting shortly after that episode came out. But Brad Hyland also reached out and said, Mark, I want a counterpoint. And I said, okay, Brad, I'll bring you on the show, but you got to be gentle. And so... And then I said,
I love you.
If you hurt me, I won't make you ribs. And so then I knew he was going to be kind. But yes. I'm very curious because I know that you are somebody who is doing very well in the online casting space.
Feels like it.
For yourself, but also you're someone who is helping students that you're working with to improve what is going on with them on online casting as well. And so I am very curious. And we did not talk about this ahead of time. You just said you had a counterpoint. And I said, all right, let's do an episode and talk about it. So I'm curious what the counterpoints are, or what did I miss?
I think you did a really good job because everybody knows you're a grumpy bear about this, really deep. But the thing I love about you, Mark, is you never spew anything you don't believe in or you haven't researched thoroughly. And when you stood up at VO Atlanta and had the facts to give to what's his face Jay from voices.com, everybody was like, thank you, thank you, Mark. It was brilliant stuff. And it's everything everybody else wanted to say. But what I think for me, you did end up eventually sort of working a way into there's people that make it work and it's good for people and you talked about being responsible about why you're not booking. And I think there's so many things that I want to tell everybody. And I tell my students when I'm working with them one-on-one. And casting sites are a great tool to use. And
I agree with that statement, by the way. And I know that nobody believes me, but I actually do agree with that statement. Now, I don't think all casting sites are a tool that is created equally. But I do think that casting sites are a great tool.
Yep. And giving a nod to what you do, it's like, they're a great tool, but an even better tool is marketing yourself and owning your business top to bottom and having a LinkedIn profile that works and having a strategy to reach out to people and liking reaching out to people. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't like that, I would say just quit now. If you don't like people and you don't like to be on screen with people and you don't like to share yourself a little bit, go do something else. I don't care how good your voice is.
I agree. I don't think that you're off on that statement.
And I think, and I'm going to just do a broad brush statement also, and this applies to you a little bit, but not a lot. And that is that in the public forums and things, I don't jump in and start singing about how great casting sites are because nobody will understand. And some of the big, important people that I love will misconstrue, but casting sites really work if you're good and you know how to use them and you're diligent. And when they don't work and you feel cheated and gypped and frustrated and angry, then it becomes very evident. And, just like what you said, the wildfire on social media about how stupid they are.
We're so good at wildfires.
Yeah. And I feel sorry for people and even experienced, very skilled people that have been doing it a while are getting a little grumpy and being vocal. And sometimes for people like that, it's like, you know what? It might be a good idea to just be really careful when you're auditioning and maybe start sniffing out what the bleeding edge is of things these days. Because if you're stuck in a pattern of voicing that was really strong 10 years ago, it doesn't work now. And
Yeah.
I fight that all the time because I'm the big voice guy, and when I'm working with, I had a directed a phone interview, a live phone audition interview with a big buyer through my New York agent. And she had a very specific sound she liked on my website. And it's not how I would have auditioned for this job that I hope I book. If I don't, it's okay. There's more out there. But she led me into a spot that she heard on my demo that had some character in it. And it was just totally just nothing salesy about it at all.
Right.
And I had to follow that. So it's being able to know where people are, what the buyers want, and how that changes. So I think casting sites are a great tool. If you own your business, you own the marketing, you own your branding, you have a great system set up, your computer is great, you have the playbook from you, and you're diligent, and you're in the workout groups. If you combine all that with being skilled and good, and with some good common sense and interpretation, and be able to share a little bit of yourself, you will book. And if you're not, then you need to just work on whatever it is that isn't. But the algorithm thing is a challenge for people.
So the overarching theme, and I admit that there's, I probably could have done a 2-hour deep dive into it on that episode, but the overarching theme that I was trying to get across in this particular episode was the idea of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
That we're just sitting back, being angry, blaming the casting sites. It's all their fault all the time. The systems are stacked against us. The odds are stacked against us. And so we just whine and gripe and grumble and chew and complain incessantly. And I just can't handle it. But nobody seems to do anything about it beyond those posts in private and closed Facebook groups. And so the idea of the episode, and if you haven't listened to the episode yet, go back and listen to the episode.
If you haven't listened, go listen. It's really well done.
The idea of the episode is accepting personal responsibility.
Yep.
Now, here's where I could have taken that one step further. Do I think that what voices.com is doing in the triple dipping is just dirty? Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I do not hide that fact. And I kind of said it to Jay.
And I tell it, I have people I talk to at Voices on a regular basis. What about this job, motherfucker? Look at this. This is what I'm talking about,
Yeah. And so do I think that they're doing us dirty when they're telling us on one hand that they're using the GVA rate guide for reference, and then jobs are coming out that are literally an insignificant fraction of the GVA rate guide? Do I think they're doing us dirty? Yes. Do I think that that's a sign that they hate us? Maybe. I do. I think it's capitalism, but I also think that it's one of those areas where, as long as we continue to pay our membership and submit our auditions, all those projects that we get mad about still fill up. Somebody's still submitting, right? And so do I think that's dirty? Yes. Do I hear stories from voice actors? And I shared this example. I think I shared it in the episode of somebody who had booked 3 jobs in a week, but because they didn't get the likes, they actually went down.
And 1, 2, 3 that you're talking about.
Yeah, this is on Voice 1, 2, 3. So they booked 3 jobs in a week, but because they didn't get the likes or the thumbs up or whatever it's called, whatever the lingo is, they actually went down in the algorithm. That is not right. That is not right. I don't care how good you think your algorithm is, or how much you want to tell me that your algorithm is built for to make a better experience or whatever. In instances like that, the algorithm is flawed.
Yeah, and I think truly they're trying to figure out ways to do this that's going to make sense and be work in the long run, and not have to change something again.
10 minutes before we signed on to do this is not a lie. I can post a screenshot. I actually got an invitation from Voice 123. I am not a paid member on Voice 123. I haven't been a paying member in years. I don't even remember the last time I looked at my profile.
Was somebody looking for a 14-year-old Indian boy, and that's why they asked for you?
A Hindu. The job posting was actually for a Hindu voice talent.
Yes.
And I got an invitation from Voice 123 to audition. I could click through and actually audition for this job for Hindu voice talent. And I'm like, yes, tell me again about how fantastic your algorithm is working. But Where I could have taken it a step further in the personal responsibility thing, and this is what I think you're touching on, and I am 100% in agreement with you on this, just to be clear. If you are struggling on the casting sites and you are just continuously blaming the casting sites, you are missing an opportunity to do better on the casting sites, because if you are not evaluating yourself as a voice actor,
Absolutely,
then that's where you're dropping the ball.
absolutely.
Now, there are some voice actors that I've had conversations with who are making bank outside of online casting, and they're struggling on online casting. And a lot of it is because people don't fully understand how to use the Voice 123 algorithm and how to work that system. And even Voice 123 has admitted that they don't fully.
It's not working that system. It's how to not let the algorithm filter you and push you to the bottom.
But you have to understand how that works in order to not get there. So if you are making money outside of the casting sites and struggling on the casting sites, then maybe it's just in how you're using the casting sites. And in those instances, can you be frustrated with the casting sites for making the experience more difficult? Maybe, sure. If you're not booking anywhere and you're blaming the casting sites, that is a symptom of a greater problem. If you have submitted 500 auditions or 1,000 auditions, and I've had conversations with these voice actors as well, if you've submitted 100 or 500 auditions or 1,000 auditions on voices.com or Voice123 or between voices.com and Voice123, or even Bidalgo, everybody loves Bidalgo. If you've been on there too, and after those 500 or 1,000 auditions, you haven't booked anything, the casting site is not to blame. The casting site does not hate you in that case. There's something else going on. So what else is going on?
One of the things I do, like for 123, is it's very easy to see what of your jobs have been shortlisted, and you can expand that list. And I do once or twice a week. I'll go look at that, and I'll look at my percentages of stuff. And if I hit a week where a week or two where I'm a little slower, I'll go back to the weeks that I did shortlist a lot, and I'll revisit what those jobs were, and okay, where was that frame? Where was I that day? And how? Oh yeah, I really just sort of didn't care. And, but I look at those, I try not to be, sucked down by that data.
Sure.
But it helps you steer.
There are clues.
What you, and I can go look at, if I go look at 10 and I see 2 were shortlisted, I go listen to the shortlisted ones to see what I was doing and what was, what kind of job was it? And where was I vocally and my attitude and stuff. And I just try to use those so I connect more dots and get better traction moving forward. But, in the last 2 weeks, I think I told you, I don't remember the number, but I just counted. It was like 10 or 12 shortlists in 2 weeks. And that keeps that percentage keeps me, I've been able to stay in the top 10% for a number of years.
Can we just clarify that is a product of quality auditioning that has nothing to do with how much money you have thrown at Voice 123?
Yes.
Because I think that's where people get confused.
And there are people, I'm a platinum, and everybody says, oh, that's not fair. Well, sorry. It's just, I'm a platinum, and I won't.
I don't know what's not fair about it. You paid the money. I
pay the money, and it it's an ROI thing. I'm not going to share details, but it's a huge ROI for me. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't do it anymore. And I know there's people that have gone from platinum down to 2,200 and been just as successful. And I know there's people that have been at 2,200 and struggled and decided, screw it, I'm going to 888. And they focused on training and doing things differently and started getting better stuff. If you're really good and you're not practicing and throwing shit against the wall. If you're really good and you're at the $2,200 level, you're going to get more opportunities and you're going to see jobs sooner and be able to audition sooner. So people that are full-time, that's really the grind I see, is the people that are struggling and they're not full-time and they're balancing, and they have to, because they have careers and families they got to take care of. But they're also swimming against the tide, against me and against, any number of other people that are full-time. And, when I get in my studio and it's a day of auditioning, it's like, Yeah, baby, I love it. It's like hunting and fishing to me. And I'm on top of jobs. I'll see a job come in, I look at it, and it's 050. And I'm number 1, 2, 3, or 4, or maybe 10. And I think that is a better opportunity too, because people aren't sitting around waiting for 150 before they decide. When they hear that voice in their head, boom, they buy it.
I think there's a couple of things to unpack there. And one of them is there's advice that has been given. And I know at times Voice 123 has given this advice, and some other coaches have given this advice as well. But the advice has been given that if you're struggling, so, let's say you bought in at the 395, which is kind of the standard tier.
Right.
You bought in at the 395 and you're struggling, or the algorithm's not showing you the love. You got to, at one point it was, you got to get in at 888. That was like the tier. Everybody's like, you got to get in at 888. Now they're talking 2,400. You got to get in at 2,400. If you are struggling on the site and you are in the lower percentiles, throwing more money at Voice 123 is not going to change anything for you.
Nope.
It is not going to change anything for you. If you are struggling, if you're at 395 on Voice 123 and you're thinking of going to 888, or if you're at 888 and struggling and you're thinking, I got to go to 2,400, let me tell you right now, as somebody who has no vested interest in this because I am not a coach, a performance coach, rather than spending the difference between 888 and 2,400 on Voice 123, if you were going to spend that money anyway, throw that money at a coach, part of it anyway. You shouldn't have to throw all of it. Throw some of that money at a coach instead. Stay at 888 and spend some money on training. Get the 888 to work for you before you ever think about going to 2,400. And I think this is where people are getting confused. And then this is where the frustration starts. Well, Voice 123 told me if I upgraded, maybe they did tell you, maybe they didn't. But people, that's the perception, is that Voice 123, they built all these tiers. And so I have to be in at a higher tier in order to get access, or I have to be in at a higher tier to see better auditions, or I have to be in at a higher tier in order to make money
more quickly, to see them sooner.
Yeah. And then, so then you spend that money, you get zero ROI, and then you get angry. And you get angry at the site.
And then your anger comes through your reads.
100%. 100%.
And it gets worse and it gets worse.
Yeah. And I talked about that in the episode about online casting sites hate you. I talked about that, how voice actors are coming into the studio in the morning PO'd as soon as they get in because of, there's all these auditions from Voice 123, but they've already got 100 submissions, or, the auditions all came at 3:30 in the morning, or the auditions that I saw were all for $50 projects or whatever. And so they're starting their day PO at the casting sites.
Or there were already 50 people.
Yeah.
Had auditioned.
Yeah. And so they're starting their day being mad at the casting sites and then carrying that through with every other audition that they submit for their direct clients, their agents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is, again, this is where it comes back to the personal responsibility. We can blame casting sites to a point for certain things that they do. I do not agree with voices.com triple dipping talent.
No,
I do not agree with the 20% escrow. I do not agree with the hidden commissions that are being taken on professional services projects, right? We can, that is their fault. That is dirty. I don't agree with it. Complaining in social media does nothing to solve that unless we come together collectively to do something about it. But personal responsibility also has to say, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm giving myself an honest evaluation of where I'm at. And I have been in this business long enough that I have seen the ebbs and flows of my career where I was coached and not coached, and coached and not coached, or where I was on trend and then I was off trend. And so then I coached and got back on trend. And then after a while, you go, that's going to happen. If you're here long enough, the types of reads are going to change over time. And so talent who make bank, I was making bank 5 years ago. Okay. But are you doing the exact same thing you were doing 5 years ago?
And even coaches are getting coached and doing things, right? So apropos of what you're talking about, things like I'm going to name drop just a couple, but
Mhm.
Tina Marasco's coaching library.
Yep.
Just a freak show of awesome content on how to book commercial work. She is really amazing. And her library, when you buy it, it's updated. And just like when you buy your stuff, if there's a new update, you get that when you don't have to pay another $100 to get stuff. Her library is updated. It's crystal clear videos of her walking through the stuff. It's brilliant. Another one example. So I have the library and I listen to the whole thing and I go back and I listen to it sometimes.
Yep.
Anne Ganguza and her VO Peeps, she has really high quality training there.
Yep.
And if you can't afford to be a reader for $100 or 140, whatever the price is for that 12-person Zoom where you read for you, $49 and you can audit.
Yep.
And you learn more. I think sometimes you learn more when you pay attention to 12 people read, and then you hear the direction from Anne and her guest person, and take notes and listen and do. And I see people that do those, and the people that are on them, they're in the crowd, they're in the Zoom, but they're on mute, and they're going like,
they're practicing.
They're practicing their read instead of listening,
instead of paying attention.
Yeah.
So that's why the audit makes sense in certain instances.
So for $50, you get to audit.
Yep.
And get 2 hours or more of this super high quality stuff that Anne puts out. And that's some of the ways I'm too busy I need to take my training in really tight, usable things and commit to it and use it. Because if you take training and you don't use it, it's like, that's why every time I have a session, I finish with, what are your takeaways? And I ask the student every single time, what are your takeaways from today? And it's not because I want to hear them tell me something great that I said. It's not that. It's what did they learn that they're going to apply differently the next time they step in the booth, even if it's 5 minutes after I hang up.
So let me ask you a question. When was the last time that you worked with a coach? And that could be in a one-on-one, or it could be, auditing a session like you talked about with Anne Ganguza, or going through Tina Marasco's library, whatever. When was the last time that you worked with a coach?
This year, I've audited 3 different online coaching panel things.
Yep.
I did the whole Tina Marasco library personally myself while I'm taking walks in the morning.
Yep.
And then I watch them too, because it's just her talking to you. And I get little bits of wisdom here and there from all sorts of people at my level, above my level, and even things my students help. When I'm helping my students and I'm explaining something to them, sometimes a light goes off and I'm like, that is an important thing. And often, and my curriculum that I have, a lot of it's been built because things that I've said to the students, they go, oh, that's cool. Let me write that down. And they're writing. And then I go, yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I'm going to write that down too. And then that becomes the next thing that I use for my...
Do you know how many times somebody has come back to me later and been like, you said this thing. Do you remember what this thing was that you said? It was absolutely brilliant. I'm like, no, I don't remember anything, because I'm always just winging it. I got to get better at writing it down. The point that for me in asking you that question, and it was, a good lawyer never asks a question they don't know the answer to. I had a pretty good idea that I knew what the answer was to that question. But the point in asking that question was, you're a top booking talent, consistently booking through your own efforts, consistently booking through online casting, consistently booking through your agents. It is May at this point, and you have done multiple forms of coaching already throughout the year.
Yep.
Now, go back and ask, and I put this out to everybody that's listening, as the VOpreneur that is sitting here listening, or if you're watching this on YouTube right now, ask yourself, when was the last time you worked with a coach? Particularly if you were somebody who has made a lot of money in the past and you're not making a lot of money now. When was the last time you worked with a coach? And if the answer is a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or maybe even 6 months ago, then maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
Trends change fast.
Yeah.
Do you notice this? I'm curious, because you've been around for a bit now too. There was, when I was starting out early, so I'm going to say like 2006, 7, 8, 9, kind of in that range. It felt like trends lasted for years.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And now it feels like we're changing trends as frequently as we change our underwear. Like, do you see that? Do you
Not
see
that fast,
maybe not quite that fast, but I don't see trends hanging on for years.
Yeah, I think the trend that we're in now is going to be a little while. It's not going to, there's not a whole lot of wacky different. I think if any trend happens coming up, it's probably going to be sort of shifting back to what worked 10, 12 years ago. And that
would be amazing. I will make bank.
My favorite, I tell you, some of the greatest things is when I'm looking at an audition opportunity and it's like, it's, a good price and it's voice 1, 2, 3. And I look at the thing. Oh, we want a big iconic sound like back from the 80s. And I'm like, oh boy, this is a piece of cake.
I submitted an audition for one of my agents the other day. And generally speaking, when I see some of the auditions from my agent, I'm like, I'm going to try this because I'm going to try because it's my agent. But no, I'm a 45-year-old white guy. I'm not pulling this off, right? Type deal. But I did one the other day that literally asked for like a classic 90s announcer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was an announcer in the 90s. If this is
come
my
down
job,
and you buy one, you get two for the price of one. It's
this is my job to lose at this point. So if that is in fact true and we go back, then I'm going to feel pretty good.
I don't know if it's going to go back to Crazy Eddie's because prices are insane. It's not going to be that. But I think the trends are going to bleed and blend a little bit. And I think that it sometimes it just boils down to when you're just sitting by yourself and you're not being fake to anybody, and the way you and I are talking right now, and if they say we just want real, personable, friendly, people still want to go real, personable, and friendly, and they want to polish it and make it sound like what they think somebody else wants them to sound like.
So
and
true.
What they really want is real, personable, and friendly, just like this. Just, the way you talk when you're just talking. And that just seems so alien to people because they haven't booked a lot of work, and they're thinking, sometimes when I'm working with my students and I'm getting them to be themselves, you got to be able to start with just who you are. And they're struggling and they can't find it. And then they do a read where they just really just sort of listen, and they're just, okay, I'm going to do it. And when I'm done, I'm like, and I have goosebumps, I'm trying to hide the fact that I have goosebumps. And I say, what? And they go, oh, that's fake. I said, what do you mean? Why is that fake? Because I didn't do anything. Hello? You just
that is literally what every single audition in the history of auditions in the last year has been asking for.
You just relaxed and you just gave me the message and you had a little smile. That's what people want. And it's really difficult to be told, we don't want that or that. We just want you. Just be you. And
what does that even mean? Especially now, because I think this is where social media ends up, because so many of us are trying to be something or someone on social media, and then we forget what our actual authentic self is. Do you think that the longer that you go between bookings, the harder that you try and the further that you actually get away from what you should be doing?
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes. And it really boils down to when you're good and you're ready and you trust your space, you trust yourself, you trust your equipment, you've got great editing, and you're not over processing. It's just like, oh, this is a piece of cake. That's when the magic happens, and every audition is a slam dunk. And when you don't spend an hour on an audition for a $400 job because they're listening this long, click, no. Click, no. That's how long they're listening a lot of times on casting sites. And even for big agent stuff, they're not listening to a full minute read all the way through. They're going through the first time to get a flavor for where the people are. That's the sound I want. They're going to shortlist those and then come back and pick the person.
I remember having Rolf on the podcast, from CEO of Voice 123. He was on the podcast. I guess it's been almost 2 years now. I probably should bring him on again. But I remember him talking about, from their data, they could see it was like 1.5 seconds or something like that. Like the first pass through, they're literally just sitting there going click, 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 click. And they can see that's how long they're listening on the initial pass, and from there they're check mark or whatever. And then they
Yep.
come back and then they'll listen to the next, listen to
10,
15
12,
or 20 of
15
them for the duration. But initially they're just kind of clicking through, and it
And
can
I've
be
asked
that
Mark,
easy.
I've asked every customer, people don't believe this, but I decided when I went full time, because I was trained 30 something years ago. And then I put it on the shelf and was a landscape guy for 34 years. And then my wife convinced me, you got to quit. This is you. And it's been like a story the whole time since then. But I don't even remember what I was going to say about that.
You talking to your customers.
Yeah. Every single customer I talk to when they, and I teach this when I'm doing my stuff. So there's a lot more to it, but if I get an email, Brad, you sounded great. It's between you and 3 guys. Can you give me another paragraph so we can drop it in a scratch? Most people are like, yes, I can. They're typing away. Yeah, let me get right on it. Blah, blah, blah. And off it goes. And I go, yeah, I'm really excited I'm typing away. Really excited that you were interested. I'm dying to do this. Can you talk to me for just a minute on a Zoom? Because I want to make sure, because I sent you 2 takes and I don't want to do the wrong take. So many of these people, and I'll be covering this in my thing in Dallas, in my sessions. So many people, when I ask them, they're like, yeah, that would be great. Hey, look, if the voiceover guy wants to have a Zoom with me, hell yeah. And they've never had a voiceover person ask them for this. And when I get on that Zoom, I connect with them, find out exactly what they want, and then I'm automatically leveraged up in the choice for that.
Because in doing that, you're actually respecting their time.
I am, yeah.
Right? Nobody thinks about it that way. They think everybody's busy, nobody's got time, whatever. But what I don't have time for is if I'm asking for another round and a whole bunch of people submit and miss the mark all over again.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. But if I've got an opportunity to just jump on and talk to you for 5 minutes and make sure that you're going to go in the direction that I want you to go, then you're actually respecting my time and you're solving a problem for me. That's customer service. And so it makes so much sense.
And they get to see I'm not a troll in a kitchen somewhere talking into an iPhone. I have a good space and I have everything in order and I'm going to follow through, and it might even be fun for them to work with me,
Yep.
But what I was, before I forget, the customers that I interview, every single one that hire me or that shortlist me, even if I get an email that says, hey, $500 is good for this conference opener. Here's the script. Do you have any questions? Most people, no, I'll have it to you tomorrow. And they don't talk about anything else. And there's so many things to talk about specs and quality and invoicing and timing. And the people that I talk to in this process tell me that when they're using casting sites, I ask them, how do you use it? Why do you use it? What are the ones you use? What do you like? What do you not like? And so many of them tell me that I can get really, like Voice 123 especially, I can get 10 crackerjack good voice artists sending me stuff, and I don't have to weed through a huge list of people on my computer that I've talked to over the last 5 years. And from that list, and this was the other counterpoint, was casting sites for me are a huge, fast, really high quality fast food of customers that want to buy me and pay me well, that will come back to me.
Yep.
Because it's all about getting people that won't use you one time. They're going to use you again and again and again. And that's the secret.
I mean, that makes sense. And I know you and I talked about this just before we started. I'm so often viewed as the anti-casting site guy, but I think it's just because I'm the one that usually calls them out, VO Atlanta being a prime example of that. I actually have a casting site module in Voiceover Marketing Playbook, and I talk about how you use it as a tool in the toolbox. There's a percentage of people who are always going to book their voiceovers through agents. Doesn't matter if you connect with them directly, they're still going to want to go through the agent. Mm-hmm. There's a percentage of people who just want to work directly with the buyer. And so you make connections with those people and you have relationships with those people, and they're going to work with you directly. There's a certain percentage of people who want the ease of use of a casting site and want to just be able to go and post a job and come back the next day and have all the auditions all lined up in a fancy back end system that they can just click through and play. And no matter what you do, those people are still going to want to use that site because it solves a very specific problem for them. And so having access to auditions in different places from different streams, that's entrepreneurship 101, right? That's wealth building 101, is multiple income streams.
Yeah.
And so I do think that casting sites are a really great tool. I think you just have to be smart about how you're using them.
Yeah, you can't absolve yourself of the responsibilities.
Yes. And
you can't
that's
just buy it and expect it to work.
That's the missing link. Is I think there's a lot of people who just don't accept their responsibility and why they are or aren't booking, and what's not working. And when you refuse to look at that and you just assume and default blame the casting site, then you're missing out on the opportunity for your own improvement and your own growth.
I'll tell you also, if you're not booking on casting sites, you're not going to book for agents.
Yeah.
And I know tons of people. I mean, I'm one of them. I have a couple, I've got some great agents, and one in particular that I book great stuff with. But they're looking for those buyers are looking for the same thing that the people on Voice 123 are looking for. Quality, professionalism, hitting the mark, easy, knock it out of the park. But it's not, they're not $8,000 jobs or $10,000 jobs. They're $400, $800, $1000, $1,200. I mean, I booked, just today I booked 1,300 in simple stuff to do on 123. And it'll take me no time. And I had Zooms with each of them, and they were delightful people. And I talked to them about what I do. I do character work. Oh, I'm also the voice of Sasquatch in a bank in the Northwest, and they wanted not a big voice. So I gave them the voice of, have I been in this bank before? No, I don't remember. Yes, I was. I bought a toaster, and I get the chance to show them that I love doing it. And I have lots of different things that I do. The other thing on 123, not so much, a little bit on voices, but people find me on Voice 123 and they go through them. And when you have a properly dialed up profile, and that's a huge part of this.
Yes.
If you have a profile that's not maximized, it's like having a gym membership you never use and you complain about how expensive the gym is. But if you went to the gym and you worked out and you're in top shape, boy, it's the best money you're going to spend.
Yep.
They find me and they can click through my samples just like this. They can click play. Oh, cool. Play. Oh, cool. Play. Oh, that's the one.
I actually do tell everybody that's thinking of signing up for Voice 123, anybody that I coach with or that talks to me about the site, I'm like, look, if you're seriously considering signing up, especially if you're thinking of going in at a higher tier, the 888s and up, and if you're booking, then if you're already going to spend the money anyway, spend the extra, whatever it is, $200 and get the V123 Pro course and learn how to use the site. Learn how to use the site, because otherwise you might as well just take your money in the backyard and set it on fire.
Yeah. And Natasha and Catherine, before they had that, I worked with them one-on-one 4 years ago, I think.
Yep.
And she was brilliant. Natasha was brilliant. I'll never forget this. And I tell people all the time, I did one-on-ones with her a couple times in a row. This was before the session. They created the course.
Yep.
And she's listening to my samples, getting my keywording together. And she's just like listening and typing. She just had her eyes closed, typing. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh, is that you? Yeah, that's me. Wow, that's a good one. Typing, and she's doing these words that would take me forever. And then I hired Catherine, and she went in as my profile, and dialed up everything for me with the stuff. And that's what the course teaches you how to do. And another one is Gina Scarpa. Can I drop her name?
Yes, of course you can.
She's brilliant, and I have worked with her one-on-one many times, and I recommend people to her. She is like a little fast, delightful, cute machine to work with, because she is like, and you can book her for a half hour or an hour, and she'll share the screen. She'll go in. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. And in 24 hours, you can dial up your voices.com or your V123 profile to be much better of a tool for you.
I think that's something that people do overlook, is the fact that both of these sites are giant search engines.
Yeah.
Right. They're not just a tool for having auditions sent to you based on your voice match or your voice specs or an algorithm or whatever. These are giant search engines, and search engines can be, I don't know if gamed is the right word, but if you know what you're doing, you will be able to fill out your profile in a way that is going to make you much more likely to be found in search. And if there are certain things, certain keywords or key phrases or certain character types or whatever that you're booking for consistently, and that's, you need to get that in your profile so that you're creating those opportunities for yourselves as well. It's like anything else, though, the online casting, you get out of it what you put into it. And I tell people that when people are talking about buying Playbook, I'm like, look, before you spend the money on Playbook, before you drop a few $100s on this course and then get upset that it didn't work for you, are you going to do it? Because what I teach in this class,
you got to do it.
It's not like I'm going to do the work for you. I'm going to tell you what to do and how to do it, but it's going to be up to you to actually follow through with it. And so if Playbook doesn't work, it's not because the course is bad. It's because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I think the same can be said for any of these online casting sites. If they're not working for you, at least on some level, it's probably because you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing.
Hey, I got to give you a shout out. My first marketing training, somebody said, "Oh, Marc Scott." And I said, "Who the hell is Marc Scott?" And I found you. I think it was end of 2016. And I hired you for an hour coaching session, and you recommended marketing in your backyard. And we had a delightful conversation about marketing in your backyard and how that can look and feel, and how it's not rocket science, and it's just something you got to live and do and be ready to talk about what you do. So I took your advice and I joined the local Chamber of Commerce and went to a couple of their, lunch and learns or breakfast meetings. And just like you said, when you tell them that you're a voice actor, they're going to all go, "What? I never met a voice actor." And within 2 weeks, the chamber executive director said, "Oh, Brad, I saw your thing, and I have a cable news show for the county, and I'm looking for, will you be on?" And we had this interview like with the green screen and all that stuff, and it's because I took that course from you. Now,
but it works because you did the work, right? You followed through and did what you needed to do, and that's why it worked. And that's the same thing with these casting sites. And so that was the part that I missed, was coming down on the casting sites for some of the stupid things that they do, which you won't change my mind.
Right. No.
Some of those things that they do are really stupid and really frustrating. And it does genuinely feel like they hate us. But it comes back to that personal responsibility and accepting personal responsibility in this. And if your business isn't where you want it to be, blaming it all on somebody else or somebody else's business, in this case, blaming it all on the casting sites or whatever, I don't know that that is the universal solution. Do I still think that voice actors should come together collectively and try to bring about some change with some of the stuff on these casting sites? I do think so. I think we proved that it worked, because what sparked the whole online casting sites hate you was the backstage announcement with their terms of use or terms of service or whatever. And that, we own the rights to all of your stuff for all time, forever and ever and ever. Amen. And the community actually got together in a collective way and pushed back against that. And within a couple of days, that was gone. That language was removed. Yep. And so we have proven that if we collectively get together and speak, we can move the needle, but it has to happen in a productive way. And when it's just consistent whining and griping in private Facebook groups, that is not the productive way. And so,
and you know what else?
Go ahead.
I remember this, that it's you and I know each other, and we see each other, and I'm going to be at a barbecue soon, I hope. And it seems like a really tight community, but there are voice actors woven in and out of the fabric of this country and this world that are not on any platforms, and they're not part of the people and they've never been to a conference. Those people are the ones that are crushing their souls on Fiverr, doing 30 jobs a day, and they're able to scratch out, enough to keep the lights on, but keeping them from doing what they need to do to get better, so they don't have to be on Fiverr and Mandy and that kind of stuff. So it seems like a tight community, but it's really it's way bigger than just the people we know and love.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, the greater point here is you can't just sit back and blame the casting sites for all of your woes, because there are people, and I know this and I admit this and I've talked about this, there are people who are using these sites in the right way who are making bank on them. And they're not the ones that are complaining online, because they don't have time to complain online because they're too busy making bank on these online casting sites. But it's because they've done all the things that we just talked about. Their profiles are filled out properly. They understand how the algorithm works. They're being very selective in their auditions and making sure that they're only submitting for the things that make sense for them to submit. They're coached up. And when I say coached up, they're coached up consistently. They didn't take coaching with a coach 3 or 4 years ago and then called it good enough and settled in, because they recognized that what was booking 4 years ago may not be what's booking today. And so they're coached up and they're delivering what their clients are looking for, delivering on trend what is booking in the marketplace today. So they're doing all of the things that they're doing. And that's why they're not blaming the casting sites, because they're taking personal responsibility for their business and their business's ultimate success and or failure, in this case, success. And so if you're not there, there's a, come to Jesus, look in the mirror moment.
And I've heard you talk about this before, but everybody needs, and you talked about coaching. Look at the top golfers. They're the top of the game. They're below scratch golfers. Scratch golfers are a dime a dozen. You can go to any private, public course, clubhouse, whatever, and there will be, 50 members that can shoot scratch golf, par golf. The ones that can shoot under par regularly, they're out on the tour because they're really good, and they have a coach every day in the morning, at lunch,
literally
at night.
Travels with them.
They travel with them, and when they finish, even if they win, the next morning, they're on the putting green with their coach, working on what the coach saw during that 18 holes that they can do better. The other part of that, what I was going to say, is mentoring. And you have to have somebody that you 100% trust. And you've been somebody for me. J. Michael Collins is somebody like that for me. He's never given me a bum steer on anything. He's never given me any jobs. He's never said, "Hey, Brad, I can't do this job. Will you voice this point? It's $1,000. No, I've had to, he's given me some, hey, I can't audition for this because I'm in, wherever in the world. And I've auditioned and I maybe didn't win it, but he has never given me a bad piece of advice. So you have to have people in your life that no matter what, good news, bad news, are going to tell you honestly and keep you straight.
So on my recent Free Advice Friday, I was talking about some hard truths about online casting. And one of the things that I talked about and suggested to people was get somebody else to listen to your auditions. Right? You can't judge your own auditions. We're too close to it. And so I said, call somebody like Brad Hyland and say, will you do a session with me? I want to go through my voice 1, 2, 3, and I want to pick 6 or 8 auditions that I thought I nailed. Like, I looked at the specs, and based on the specs, I thought I am the perfect fit. This is my job. And you auditioned for it and you didn't book it, or you didn't even get shortlisted for it. So you call Brad, you get him to listen to those jobs in your profile. You get an outside perspective, somebody who is trained up.
And I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one, but I know that you're somebody, you're here and you just talked about people that we can trust. But that's what I think. And I did that when I was using online casting in the past. I did that, and I did it with J. Michael. And he would listen to my auditions, and sometimes he made me sad because he would tell me true. He'd be like, "Mark, what the hell was that?" Right? And other times he'd be like, "I don't know why you didn't get that." But I needed that. Especially if I was starting to see my booking rate drop off. If I was getting into that lull, I was like, "Oh crap, something's changing. Either I'm doing something or I've adopted a tick, or, sometimes we get into a particular groove and we don't even realize that we've gotten into a groove where every read sounds exactly the same. whatever
Every
it
read
is. But
sounds the same, but better.
yeah. And so you need outside perspective to come and say, you know what, you should have got the short list on that. I'm not sure what happened, or no, you're way off, and here's why. Or look, these are three totally different specs for three totally different jobs, but every one of these reads sounded exactly the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you need somebody that will do that. So everybody's going to call you and you're going to do that.
They can call me. They can call me. They can email me, which is even better. Brad@AmericanVoicePower.com. But I never coach anybody. I'll do individual spots with somebody who's worked with me in the past, but I only do groups like 4, 5, 6, because there's too much to share in the first one, and then they put the pieces together. But I never work with someone unless I've had a Zoom with them. I want them to talk to me,
Yep.
and I want to ask them questions about what they do and why they do it, and what are they frustrated with, so I can see if I'm a match. Because I won't coach people. Hey, my mom says I have a good voice. What's next? I don't want those people.
Mm-hmm.
I want people that have passion, skin in the game.
Yep.
They've been trained a little bit. They have studios. Maybe they even have some demos that are pretty good. And I want to help them get to that next level. And I'll do that in a quick Zoom, but I won't listen to stuff for an hour for free. I'll find out if there's something I can do, and then they'll send me some files, and then I'll say, yeah, let's talk about something, and go from there.
What did we miss?
I was just looking at I think everything I wanted to say, you've said yourself. My counterpoints you gave yourself. You said you did it so that I wouldn't jump in and tear you a new one.
No, I was totally braced and prepared to have a new one torn. That's why I was like, all right, Brad, let's do this. And don't tell me ahead of time what you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, I think
I was waiting for the throwdown. I thought this was going to be like a UFC episode or something.
No, that wouldn't play, and all of your fans would send me hate mail if I did that. And I didn't feel, that's not what I felt. I wanted to just make sure you knew that
there's more to it.
There's more to it. They're great. And if you use them properly,
yes,
and you're dedicated to it,
yes,
and it can be a fantastic source of returning customers.
I 100% agree with that statement. And I know that people still don't believe it, but I do 100% agree with that statement.
Next time you have the urge to say that somebody hates you, just say, I don't think they really hate you, and they're pretty okay, but this is why. You got to give the caveat a little bit. You're awesome, Mark. You're awesome.
This has been really good. This has been really insightful for people. And it's an important part of the conversation. Something that I said in my last Free Advice Friday was that, and I've talked about this for years. I said a good coach will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be told that you just spent $2,400 for a year of Voice 123 and didn't book because your reads are bad. Nobody wants to be told that. Everybody wants to just be told it's the algorithm. It hates you. And the problem is I think part of the problem is that there's not enough coaches that are out there anymore who are willing to have that tough and awkward and uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah. And I pride myself on that. And that's why I have the Zoom beforehand, because I want people to know they can trust me. Yep. And whatever I do with them is between us.
And being told that you spent $2,400 on Voice 123 and didn't make any money, and it's not Voice 123's fault, it's your fault. Just to be clear, that's not the end of the story.
No.
Right? The end of the story is, okay, so then we fixed it. If and when it's fixable, we fixed it. And then next year you tried again and you booked and you made money because you fixed your read or you got on trend or
I love booking work. I love new customers. I love making bank, all that stuff.
Yep.
The thing I love more than anything else is when my students send me an email just out of the blue, and it happens a couple times a week. Oh my gosh, I got shortlisted and then I booked it and I did exactly what we talked about. That to me is like, thank you.
Yes. Wow. I've said that too. My favorite part is when somebody messages me and tells they have a breakthrough. They finally sent the email and got on a roster, or they, made a social media post that got attention from the right people, or landed a client that they've been following up with for 2 years, and finally the first booking came through or whatever. I love celebrating those wins with people and those breakthroughs that they're having. So I totally relate to that.
Not only are you from Canada, my friend, but your needle is pointed true north all the time, and that's what everybody knows and loves about you.
Try. I think we could say the same for you, Brad. Thanks for messaging me and telling me you had a counterpoint.
My pleasure. I was so eager. I was like, I was working on a job and I had 2 really good auditions, and I was like, no, F that. I'm going to talk to my friend.
So here we are. We put it together. We've got a really great episode, and I think some people are going to learn some things out of this that will hopefully help them to make these casting sites work. Because I do still think there's money to be made there, but I also think it needs to be said that the competition level on those sites is higher than it has ever been. And I think that's one of the other misconceptions. I think that the narrative that most people have adopted, because it's easier to adopt, is all these newbies have signed up and infiltrated online casting and they're just overrun. And so there's too many people submitting. Maybe there's an element of that could be it, but I don't think that's why you're not booking.
By the way, the people that flooded the system, the non-trained newbies that don't care, some of them have gotten success and they'll stick with it. The vast majority did not, and we're going to start seeing them filter out and go back to doing whatever they did before. And then it'll level out a little bit.
And that's why I think it's really important that narrative, that it's just because there's too many new people and everybody's trying to do this and the system's flooded and overwhelmed. I don't think that's the narrative that you need to adopt. I think the narrative you need to adopt is the people that are booking are stinking good. Mm-hmm. And I just need to make sure that I'm stinking good too.
Stinking good.
Stinking good.
Hashtag stinking good.
There you go. All right, Brad. Thank you so much for coming on as always and sharing your time and your wisdom so generously as you always do. It is appreciated by me, and I'm sure everybody who is listening right now.
Same to you, man. Way to go. Way to do what you do, Mr. Marc.